All right, let's begin with some music, and then I'm going to throw a few paradoxes at you. When my hands were emptied, when my hope was gone, I couldn't help but wonder what had I done wrong. But even though my heart was broken, there was no need to despair, 'cause a vessel must be open to put something better there. Oh yeah. Into my empty hands, gently you pour new life for me. Yours is a perfect plan. The ups and the downs were meant to be. Now I understand you needed my empty hands. So forgive me when I doubt it. I admit sometimes I do. Or consider giving up 'cause I cannot see the truth. I know I'll never go without it. Your deep and abiding love, oh love. Into my empty hands, gently you pour new life for me. Yours is a perfect plan. The ups and the downs were meant to be. Now I understand you needed my empty is a perfect plan. The ups and the downs were meant to be. And I cannot help but cry to think of the gifts you've given me. Now I understand you needed my empty hands. So thank you for thank you for my empty hand. What do I do if I'm not chasing anything? What do I do if I've got everything that I need? It's a question that no one's prepared me to answer. Where do I go if I'm right where I'm supposed to be? Where do I go if wherever I am home? It's a mystery. No one can give me an answer. If the usual way doesn't work anymore, if there's no map for what life has in store, what if the race is over and we all automatically win? What if the game is ended long before it even begins? What if the test has been taken and we're all passing again and again? If the race is over, what then? What do I say if it's all perfect anyway? What do I say if I'm not here to change anyone? It's a question I truly don't know how to answer. How do I live if my life is eternity? How do I live if I'm no longer afraid to die? It's a mystery. No one can give me an answer. If the usual way doesn't work for me now, well, that's a void I know nothing about. What if the race is over and we all automatically win? What if the game is ended long before it even begins? What if the test has been taken and we're all passing again and again? If the race is over, what then? What is the purpose of time here on earth? How do I now define my death and birth? For that matter, what is my life really worth in the end? What's mine to give and what's mine to receive? Whom do I worship? What do I believe? It seems every answer comes right back to me in the end. What if the race is over and we all automatically win? What if the game is ended long before it even begins? What if the test has been taken and we're all passing again and again? If the race is over and we're all born victorious, if the race is over, what then? That whole non-complaining thing got me thinking. Those are a couple of very non-complaining songs, aren't they? They're very, well, however, as I said, I'm going to throw a couple paradoxes at you because I actually think complaining has its place. So, with apologies to the very nice man, I believe, who wrote that book and made those bracelets, and I'm going in both directions today. So, I mean, anybody in here not ever had empty hands? Yeah, no, everybody, right? Everybody has lost something. Something that hurt to lose. Approximately nobody has ever felt like they had all their needs met all the time. I mean, kind of nobody. You know, I sometimes say we're all doomed from the start since we're raised by humans. So it's really bad luck if you think about it. I don't know about you. I wouldn't want to be raised by me, and I'm a pretty nice person, but I got problems. You know, I have all kinds of emotional things I don't get, and triggers that I'm not noticing until I'm triggered, and then I say things I regret, and then I only sometimes apologize for them. It's all a big mess, and that's me, and I like me mostly. You know, well, you know what I'm saying. I mean, think about how high, I'm going to go ahead, I'm a hope that you think fairly highly of yourself. Would you want to be raised by you? You know, maybe, right? Most of the time. How about most of the time? Anyway, so given that we're all raised by humans who themselves were raised by humans, so we're talking about like layers of shellac, you know, that would need to be peeled away to get to the heart of the matter. And given the fact that, you know, these kind of bags of bones, whatever you think we are, like really are, you know, at the very least we have luggage we have to lug around, you know, like it never leaves us. And the luggage is blood and bones and brain and muscle, and that stuff breaks down. Let's face it. And I'm not just talking about like the hair on the top of my head or the back that, you know, makes unfortunate sounds when I'm lifting a piece of wood to fix up the house. I'm talking about, you know, we get diagnoses and we get imbalances and we get autoimmune diseases and we're kind of a mess. I mean, it's a pretty complicated system. It's in fact it's spectacularly complicated. It's impressive. You know, I mean, it's not a criticism. You know, this system, this luggage we've got is complicated, so it breaks down. We all know that too. So now we have being raised by humans, only sort of understanding our own feelings, much less anybody else's. And then we have a bag of bones that hurts sometimes and breaks sometimes, and is, I think it's a Shakespeare quote, is born astride a grave. So there is an end to every beginning. And we know it from early, I don't know how early we know it, but I think we kind of get it early on. Some, sadly, of course, earlier than others, understand the mortality with which we're all blessed and cursed, you know. So life kind of hurts. It's also spectacular and beautiful. But to not complain ever, it seems to me, is extreme. Let me give you an example. All right, let me give you an example. Since it's all about me, I'll talk about me. But I'm sure you could tell a story comparable or maybe even far more impactful than mine. But for me, I was born and raised by two lawyers. Thank you for your condolences, and you know, it's okay. That comes with a packet of therapy, so that worked out It's included. No, I'm kidding. I'm not really kidding. It did include therapy. Anyway, so I was raised by lawyers, very intelligent, cerebral people, very devoted parents, and my dad is still, but essentially retired now. But my dad is a law professor for 45 years, and at a law school in Chicago where I grew up. So we had 3 boys. They had 3 boys. I have 2 brothers, and we had a standing offer our entire childhoods for a free law degree. Has anybody ever paid for graduate school in here? Yeah. Was it free? The laugh is the perfect answer. Yeah. So we didn't really realize the keys to the kingdom we were being handed. And only my older brother, I'm the middle, only my older brother decided to take him up on that offer. For me, it was never on the radar to become a lawyer. I mean, I never considered it for a second. It's kind of funny, really. But that doesn't mean that I thought I was going to be a musician. I had to do something professional, if that makes sense. We were raised to go to college, non-negotiable, and we were raised to be good boys, law-abiding, good Jewish boys. I'm Jewish, and we were raised in a pretty traditional Jewish home. And so there were expectations, and we were not going to be hippies. In fact, I'm going to trust that my dad's not watching this. To give you an idea of how unhippie we were expected to be, my parents went to University of Chicago in the late 60s, right there in the smack dab in the middle of, the love movement, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it was probably quite a crazy time. And I once asked my dad, did you ever smoke pot back then? I mean, you were at the University of Chicago in the 60s. There were rallies and riots and protests and free love and whatever. I didn't ask him about the free love. I just asked, did you ever smoke pot? And he said, no. I said, why not? He said, because it was illegal. Okay. It was illegal, right? And as a result, by the way, all 3 boys are very, very clean cut. You are looking, with all respect to the other musicians, talented people in the room, I probably have the cleanest bloodstream of any musician in America. I just don't. So it succeeded in making very clean-cut kids. I just don't drink. I don't do any of that. When I'm around most musicians, especially like in nighttime settings and clubs and things, I feel like an alien, I'm just a weirdo, I want to go to sleep at 10:15 and, anyway, you get my idea. So I wasn't raised to be a hippie in the slightest, so I was supposed to be a professional, and I was not going to become a lawyer. So the thing that I had took an affinity to when I was a kid, it's going to tell you how cool I really was computer programming. I know, it's dazzling. It's dazzling. And yes, the girls loved me. At least I'm told. Anyway, so I became a computer programmer after college because it was the only thing I could think of that required me to get dressed nice and have a job that sounded like something. You know what I mean? I didn't have a graduate school on my radar. I was not going to become a lawyer, but I couldn't be Danny the musician, which is a sideways criticism of my parents, but they couldn't have possibly known how deep it ran for me. And they also provided the piano lessons when I was a kid and bought me a trombone to play in high school and college band. So I had their support. But full-time musician? No, nowhere on the radar. That's not what we did. So I got a job and I worked in a cubicle and I freaking hated it, but I got paid and they gave you benefits. I called them bribes at the time, and they were very effective bribes. if you put $1 into your savings account, we'll put in 3. I'm like, okay, that sounds awesome. And if you fly, I used to work at like a Fortune 500 company, and they would fly me around the world. This is just before the internet made it absurd to do this. So they would fly me. I flew to Singapore and to Toronto and to Sydney, Australia, and Brussels, and it was wild. And they demanded that we fly business class. Best mixed nuts I ever ate in my life in business class. Do I even have to tell you I haven't flown business class in 25 years? Not a whole lot of independent singer-songwriters flying business class, and I am not an exception. But, so for 6 years, I sat in those cubicles and I did those jobs, okay? Desperately unhappy. But on the surface, it looked like it was a pretty good setup for a life. I mean, my title after 4 or 5, I was good at computer programming, and after 4 or 5 years, my title was Senior Programmer Analyst. I wasn't the senior, but that was the title they gave me. Pretty good money. Possibilities for lots more money. They let me keep the frequent flyer miles while I was flying business class. They put money in my 401k. They gave me stock in the company, right? Dream job in somebody else's dream. So, do I believe in not complaining? No. Because if I were to talk myself out of complaining, if I were to decide unilaterally, unequivocally, without exception, that complaining brought me down in some basic way, I would have never left that job. But I would have lived the rest of my life dead. So, complaining saved my life. Now, I didn't say it out loud to anybody. The internal process of complaining saved my life. Call it a discontent, whatever you want to call it. But it was complaining. And I had a lot of nerve to complain about this job, about this career path, this life. I mean, especially looking back, that is one privileged story for a 26, 27-year-old kid, right? I was on my way to something. By the way, don't even talk to me about the wisdom of quitting the computer programming industry in the late 1990s to become a musician. What was I thinking? Now, my wife and I sit around and wonder, how is Jude going to go to college? Instead of flying around on, probably would have been a private helicopter by now if I'd stayed in the computer programming business in the late 1990s. How about if I'd moved to California and gone to Silicon Valley instead of West Hollywood? What a stupid thing to do. Anyway, well, I digress. Anyway, so is complaining always a bad thing? I'm going to say absolutely not. Complain when you need something to change, right? Surrender when you need to rest. So I open with Empty Hands and If the Race is Over. Those are songs of surrender. And there's a lot to surrender to. Now, and by the way, this is my own spin on the no complaining thing, of course, right? But and I know that's not quite the heart of the no complaining idea, but to some extent it is. Do I allow myself to be brought down by my thoughts? And do I allow myself to bring other people around me down with my thoughts? Or do I surrender, this is my spin on it, surrender what needs to be surrendered and address what needs to be addressed? See, that's where the complaining does come in my mind. But to surrender what ought to be surrendered, that's a tricky art form. How many people read the paper and surrender the news? Well, we have a rule in our house. My wife Melina is is much smarter than me, and she has a rule. The rule is, I read the news and she doesn't, first of all, which is my mistake. So I read the news, she does not. Here's the Melina rule in our house, is I'm not allowed to tell her something that's going on if it will only upset her and there's nothing she can do about it. You'd be amazed how little news gets through that filter. I mean, like next to nothing. Never mind the fact that most of the news is hyperbole and sensationalism and shock value and speculation. Okay, never mind that. Even the actual hard news, most of it is actually none of our business. Sorry. I mean, I physically cried. My little boy I'm actually the crier in the marriage. Melina's much tougher than me. But even though that's true, Jude has still only seen his dad. He once asked me, like just not too many years ago, Daddy, do you ever cry? I'm like, Melina's like, does he ever cry? Every time he watches an Instagram video of a soldier coming home to see his son graduate from high school, he cries. And then he sends me those damn videos and tries to make me cry, Anyway, but Jude saw me cry when the war in Ukraine started. Because I'm not old, I'm not young, whatever, depends where you're at. But I'm old enough now, and I have enough frame of reference to imagine what happens to little kids when a war breaks out. That's what actually was on my mind, that they're now terrified and dying. And I cried. I watched a concert where a choir sang the Ukrainian national anthem. They spontaneously stopped their concert and sang the Ukrainian national anthem, and I watched it and I cried. And Jude saw me cry, right? So I'm not detached entirely from all that. But is the war in Ukraine my business? That is to say, should I be laying up at night worrying about it? Clearly not. I mean, I'm not about to enlist in the Ukrainian army. Ain't gonna happen. Nothing I can do. There's literally nothing I can do about it. So that doesn't mean I shouldn't care, but to detach, to surrender that story. That is to say, in its own practical sense, to not complain, to not walk around. Some people, you've ever heard this, some people like have a piece of Velcro here and a piece of Velcro here, and they walk around like this all the time. Oh, whatever it is. And if you ask, and the story changes day to day, but it's always, there's my sister, my best friend, the roof, the dog. It's always a story. Ukraine, whatever it is. And that is the bringing down thing for sure. So surrender to rest. Right? So what is keeping you up at night? I'm not judging because I get kept up at night too. But it is absolutely true for me, and I'm willing to bet a quarter, because I'm a big spender, that what's keeping you up at night is less your problem than you think. Or maybe more accurately, less yours to fix than you think. Okay, so if you're in a relationship that just isn't working, complain, especially if it's abusive or unkind or, of course. But if you're a parent and your child is in a dead end job, are you laying awake at night worrying? Why? I mean, it's not yours to fix. If you have opened a store, I'm not trying to be simplistic or dismissive. I know that things are not black and white; they're shades of gray. But if you've opened a store, made the shelves beautiful, priced the products well, placed your advertisements, got all your licenses in order, every zoning, every permit thing handled, and you open your doors, and do you lay up awake at night worrying about whether customers will come in? Or have you done everything in your power there is to do? The rest is going to happen with or without the worry. Easier said than done. You're diagnosed with cancer. You go see the best doctor you have access to. That doctor prescribes a radiation course or a chemo course or this pill or that pill or this treatment or that and this timetable or that. You can lay awake at night, and of course you're gonna. I'm not trying to be simplistic about it or dismissive at all. But the doctor does not know how that's going to go. Do doctors ever know? They're like weathermen, sort of, you know. I mean, with more information, but not that much more information. Still a statistical game, and they're still doing the best they can with the information they have. They're doing the best they can, okay? So do you or I lay awake at night fretting about the stock market? Completely beyond anyone's control. Where your retirement fund is going. These are things, in my mind, to surrender, to rest, to allow to unfold how they're gonna. Then there's the complaining side. And I said, like I said, this is going to be a mixed bag, you know, today. That complaining thing got me thinking, you know, because if you're in that job, like I was sitting in that cubicle, if you're in that job and you're dying inside, I say complain. Or if you're in a relationship that hurts you on a daily basis, I say complain. However, there is, to my mind, a way to complain and a way not to complain. One of my favorite movies is a movie I don't think anybody's ever seen. Anybody ever seen the movie called, I think part of its problem is it has a terrible name. Oh yeah, it's a terrible name. It's called How Do You Know? Anybody ever seen this movie? It's Drew Barrymore, Paul Rudd. It's great. I mean, I'm the only one who thinks so, but it's great. There are so many little nuggets of wisdom in this script. I mean, it's for real. And one of the little nuggets that, and as I said, I'm not a drinker at all. But there's a line in there that I still understood. A woman says, a man is having a hard day, and he's like, I think I'm going to have a drink. Do you think I should have a drink? I don't know if I should have a drink. Should I have a drink? And she says, my father used to say, don't drink to feel better, drink to feel even better. He's like, that's a good one. That's a good one. And and I have always thought that like the core of an addiction, the core of a problem, is how it feels to the person engaged in the behavior. That if I have a drink and there's no energy attached to it, if I don't feel shame when I'm doing it, you know what I mean? Or eating, if I stop when I'm full, if I don't eat out of shame or anxiety or sadness, then I'm not an eataholic. You know, if you have a couple bites of dessert because it looks delicious, it's different than if you have a couple bites of dessert because you've had a hard day. You know what I mean? I eat, by the way, to have a hard day because I had a hard day. So I am absolutely addicted to sugar. Like, I know that it's loaded. It's not a neutral thing for me. So drink to feel even better, not better. And when you complain, do you complain to clarify the situation and to understand it? Or do you complain because you enjoy hearing the sound of your own voice? And because it's satisfying to walk around this way, You get nice you get nice little scraps of pity thrown at you. You know, that's valid, by the way. It does feel good to have people feel sorry for you. It does. But it does not change anything. For me, the internal process of that career, of that job, the internal process, it just roiled me. It was killing me. How unhappy I felt, even in the face of what looked like a pretty nice life. And I don't think I actually complained to anybody. I'm not bragging about it. I'm just saying I don't think I actually talked about it with anybody, except the therapist that my parents still haven't paid me back for. So for me, it was an internal process of relentless complaining until I could understand what was really wrong. And what was really wrong was that I was lying for a living. And I'd kind of forgotten that this is not what I was meant to be. I am a musician. Danny's a musician. No, I mean, it was just so murky in my head because, and I'm sure some of you can relate, I was not raised to stay in touch with who I was born to be. My parents are first-generation Americans, tough as nails, incredible achievers. They raised their boys to have stable jobs, and we were not going to be musicians. By the way, as it turned out, my older brother's a teacher, my younger brother's a screenwriter, and their middle son's a songwriter. So strike one, strike two, and strike three. But the foundation was solid anyway. Anyway, so I'm going to sing you one more song. I tend to, first of all, I apologize and appreciate your forbearance, if that's the proper word, for the rambling way in which I process something. But I hope you've gotten something out of it. I'm not fishing. I mean, I hope you've gotten something out of it. If there's something in your life that you are feeling like you're not supposed to complain about, but you can't resolve the discontent, complain away. Complain onto paper. Figure it out. I have never been able to talk myself out of serious discontent. I can't ever, my wife I love, right? I had girlfriends that were hit and miss, and I could never talk myself into this girl or that girl being right for me. No, the discontent doesn't go away. For me anyway, I eat more sugar. That's how I handle the discontent. That's not the healthiest choice, you know? So if you're feeling the discontent, this guy who has no business doing it gives you permission to complain. But not in the way that just poops on everybody around you. Or kind of, if like you can feel like, complain to do even better. You know what I mean? Not complain to do better. Complain to make your life better, stronger, clearer. To complain to make the relationship better. Complain to make the career truer. But then there's the kind of complaints that you definitely ought to switch the bracelet to the other wrist for. This kind. And then the counterpoint to it is the surrender. Ask yourself, and this is unsolicited advice, I apologize, ask yourself, what if I let that go? Whatever it is. Okay, actually, let's do this exercise for a second, okay? Close your eyes. I'll close mine too. And for just 10 seconds, I'm just going to throw a question at you, okay? You ready? What are you worried about? Really? Your retirement fund, a diagnosis, your kid, your parent, your spouse, your mental health. What are you worried about? What does keep you up at night? Obviously, no right or wrong answer, and your answer is nobody's business but your own. So then the follow-up question is, what if that thing, that situation, just dabble in the possibility that that is not yours to fix?
that it will unfold, it will flow like water downhill to where it's meant to resolve. That your sleeplessness, your stomach acid, your ulcer, your headaches, your high blood pressure from the worry, your short temper from being stressed, that all those side effects of your stressing over this thing are unnecessary and unproductive. They're not actually bringing you any closer to a resolution. The resolution is coming to you. It does not need you to control it, and you can't control it. Just consider the possibility for a second. And you might be thinking, no, this is definitely mine to fix. Got it. So just think for a second, what if that isn't mine to fix? How would you feel? What would be different about your day? Maybe that's helpful, just to dabble in it.
Ran away from the sun. Ran away from the rain. Hid away from everyone. Ran away from the pain. Now I'm so out of breath. Now I'm so scared to death that I'm not running anymore. I'm not hiding anymore. For the first time in my life, I will stand my ground. No more running round. Here I am. What's a life covered up? Day and night just not to fail. Like a life without love. Is its own kind of jail. And what a waste to regret what I haven't tried yet. I'm not running anymore. I'm not hiding anymore. For the first time in my life, I will stand my ground with my heart unbound. Here I am. Throw in the game just to make sure that I never win. Kept counting myself out again and again. So nervous, running in circles till nobody knew where I'd been. Well, maybe today is the day that I let it all in. Maybe my secret hurts no original sin. It's time I've made up my mind. I'm ready to dive in. I'm not running anymore. I'm not hiding anymore. For the first time in my life, I will stand